the Hex, your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 move actions in a single round by one warband. I'm your co-host, Davey, and with me, I have my accusatory co-host, Phil. How are you, Phil?
Ready to purge the heretics?
And I have my other co-host who has been checking diapers for proof of guilt. Brian, how are you doing, Brian?
Doing good. Lots of guilt to go around.
For context, we're recording on the 21st of September. Phil wrote it down for me, and I still had to look at my watch. I'm like, is that possibly correct? It is.
Yeah, I lost a few days in the mix here.
I believe it. We are 6 days out from this episode dropping, and we are going to talk to you today. We'll talk a little bit about our Q3, but also we're going to cover a sort of off-meta warband, specifically what Phil's been messing around with, Hexbane Hunters, and we'll get into a little bit why we picked that to do just now, and we'll just have a little bit of a freewheeling conversation about that. Before we do that, let's do our usual community shout-outs. Who's got something they want to... Anything happening in your community, Brian?
I've been off the radar. We were expecting a child in October, and they came early. So we were calling into bed, and my wife was like, I think my water just broke. I was like, it's a night shift. And so we got to the hospital, and she absolutely crushed it. We had it quite easy as compared to many alternative horror stories, or in my family history, especially, of like really laborious labors. So really proud of her. And, we have a new son now, our first. So that's been what we've been expecting. And it's just trying to take it all in as early as we were, 3 weeks early, but all the stats are like of a full term baby. So cool. She was spared a large expected delivery time. So that's been good. So both mom and son are healthy, and we're back at home and really enjoying it.
That's awesome.
A lot of adjustments, a lot of stuff that I got to get caught up on, but such is parenthood, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Wouldn't know anything about that, Davey.
Well, congrats, man. New addition to the meta over here.
Indeed.
Yeah. A brand new release, you might say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of the fall Hibber variety.
Yeah, plenty happening here.
Outside of our extremely local community of our families, I did want to shout out, kind of appropriate to this episode, where we talk a little bit about exploring different warbands, and one in particular. But over on Staggerers blog, they did a "What is every warband best at?" And it is an entertaining read. You can kind of run down the list. You may or may not agree with everything, and there's a few warbands that need a little bit of reach to find what they are best at. But it's kind of fun to just kind of march through. And I thought that was a pretty creative topic for an article.
Yeah, I appreciated that they really did go all the way to find something to say about every single one that's like they're the best at in the whole game, even for things like Skinnerkin.
Yeah. I think we're going to keep it quick here. Unless anyone else has got something, we're going to move on here. And I will ask, what the heck has been going on with you? Brian, we kind of already know what's been going on with you.
Yeah. Excited for new releases to come, but trying my best to adjust my expectations in making sure I don't overcommit to things and then disappoint people when I'm not able to follow through. So I'm gauging my capabilities and reassessing that.
Under promise, over deliver. It's
Yep.
Applies in personal life too. So, Phil, what about you?
Yeah, just continuing to sort of mess around, playing random stuff. I had sort of set myself a goal, I don't know, maybe about a month ago, of being like, you know what, I feel like I play way too much of the 4 decks from the starter box for Emberguard, and it's like we've got all these other decks that I've basically only played like one time. I should really force myself to play something else, just because I keep seeing other people using decks and being like, wow, I never expected that to be good. And it did really well. And it's like, have I just been completely under appreciating all these other tools that are out there?
Sure.
So that's been fun. Just playing in our local, and learning a lot, I guess, is what I would say. How about you, Davey?
Yeah, I have. Well, we went and did the Q3 team tournament. That was super fun.
Yeah.
Messed around with that. I got on this weird little Sirenized Razors kick. I think I just saw it was actually, speaking of Staggerers, a deck that I mentioned it last episode, but that he put together. It was like all the pings, and then tried it. And I most recently played Alex. The deck's actually like 5-0 right now. I think I beat
Oh my God.
Hexbane, Canaan's a couple times, Knives, and Kagra. And Alex was like really lamenting the ping situation. He's like, every time you put down you reached for your power card hand, I was like, God dang it, here it comes again.
Once more into the breach. It's funny though that you're like, yeah, I'm just, tooling around with this thing. It's kind of different, kind of weird. And it's like, that sounds familiar.
yeah, exactly. So we were talking about that, and some of it came up because of Q3, where the way we just ran it, had 4 teams, and our rules for it was that we actually did a draft where each team was not strictly bound to, but would try to stick to a particular Grand Alliance.
Yeah,
and then no rivals deck could be repeated within that set of 3 teams. So it meant that you could either like spread everyone out a little bit, or just have a couple people go for whatever they want, and the last person like put something weird together. So in my case, I did take Gore Chosen because our team was Chaos, but I put them on because actually Brian and Emmett and I were all on the one team once Jake actually couldn't make it. Got a little sick at the last minute.
Sorry, Jake.
Yeah.
we missed you.
We had committed to this idea that we were going to have like one flexible, one attacky, and one hold. And at the last minute, kind of the hold fell to me. And also we were trying to bring only painted stuff. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to hold with Gore Chosen. and so I paired Emberstone with Reckless Fury and actually had an absolute blast. It was like such a weird puzzle to figure out. And often was playing against other warbands with pairings that were, I think I eventually played Skylar, who was on Cunning Crew. And I want to say I'm going to forget what all he was on.
Yeah, I know Rack was one of them.
I think it was Edge of the Knife and Rack. And at one point I looked up in the game and like, this might be the only time this particular combination of decks and warbands has ever been played. Like, this is such a weird set of pairings here. It's a big world. It's a lot of people playing the game, but it was fun to, throughout the event be like, this might be the first time, certainly the first time here in Madison, and might be the first time, that this kind of thing has been played. And that idea of exploration is something that often drives, certainly you and me, Phil, and I think often just about everybody at some point we get the itch to try something out. And for you, that was a few months ago, actually 6 months ago now, probably.
Yeah.
Where you got that itch to just try something that you felt like had been overlooked. So I think that's what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah. Just to cover a few other things from the Q3 event. Being the judge, not having been thinking about playing in it, but seeing what other people were thinking about and doing. I think one thing that we did that I thought was actually a really good idea for trying to help keep things fresh for that event was every team captain was allowed to ban one warband. So nobody in the event could take it, which I thought was a really interesting way to see every single team sort of figure out like what do they think the most problematic thing is that they don't want to face, and just take
Definitely
it out of
how
the
you
meta.
should use that ability.
Yeah, right. Go to any tournament and just be like, I don't want to face that. But it made for a much more interest, because like then you're like, well, I just don't have to worry about this top at the meta thing. And also, Skylar's heart got ripped out because someone chose to ban skates. Not even in the game, but spite is sometimes a powerful motivator.
Hey, psychological warfare is valid.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the only other thing that I really sort of got a kick out of being an observer on the outside was we had set it up where once the teams had been chosen as to who would face each other, the team captains, it was their job then to say, like, we would present this warband from our team, the opposing captain would present a warband, and then you now know, okay, now I can choose who I want to pair into that warband that was presented. And so you had this sort of mini game of deciding which warbands should face each other and who should we present first and how should that pairing go, and adds a whole nother strategic element to playing the game, which I got a real kick out of. I don't know how it felt actually having to do that decision making, but I have to imagine it was pretty fun.
I think it was pretty cool. I think we got a little in a rush to get playing in the first round, and we realized like, hey, we didn't give ourselves that conference time. And some of the fun thing is to like huddle up and be like, all right, here's what you're playing against. Here's what I think you got to look out for. And that was kind of fun. Brian and Emma and I sitting down and being like, who do we think has a good matchup? We frequently got it wrong, but it was the process of thinking it out and being like, what do we think they're going to do? What do we think that they think we're going to do? And back and forth on that. And it was, it's what makes that team event more than just playing some games.
Yeah. It was fun to, maybe, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but it was like, since you get to ban a choice, it's like instead during the tournament, it's like, I chose this. And so if like your teammate calls out to you, like, how's it going over there? It's not going good here. And you're like, I chose this and it's not good.
Yeah. I think maybe in that last round, Brian was like, what'd you end up playing against? Because you had Thricefold, but we put you into, do you remember?
I was into Zach and
Ilthari. You're like, I can manage Ilthari. We're like, cool. And I was in a big scrap with Wellner, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And I knew Emmett had a little rough go, and I was like, well, Brian's probably got his. And you're like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
very, very wrong about that.
It's that meme of and I'm bad at math.
I mean, lots of really just like, I'd say most of the games were pretty close. We had one team kind of run away with the event, but most everybody had close games. And it was a really cool thing to get to do. Even though I wasn't playing in it. And it's something that as a group we've been wanting to do for years. And this is sort of the first opportunity we've had to actually make it happen. So I guess all of that is to say, team events are really cool. It adds a whole nother spin onto the game and makes you get outside your comfort zone to a certain degree. So if you have the opportunity to play in any, I would certainly recommend it. I know they are definitely doing many more team events in Europe than they are in the Americas. So we should probably pick up the slack a little bit, but some really cool stuff.
We got a lot more distance to travel over here.
Well,
I mean, maybe.
I mean, it was, and it's in the spirit of that of having these kind of new fresh spins on the game, like interact. Like I think at one point I had an end phase where I scored Unrelenting Massacre and Supremacy, and I was like, I don't think I never would have imagined doing that. Like that was
those
weird
two at the same time
combo to pull both those off. But it felt really, to work your way towards that. There were plenty of times where it didn't work out, but like I really love the game. I really love how much you can learn and the depth of it. And this was just kind of another way of exploring some of that depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes to show just how, despite, the amount that we play this game, which is probably more than some folks, certainly less than others, but there's still plenty of surprises to be had, new things to learn, shocking moments to be like, wait, what? That card is going to feel like that when we actually play with it?
Yeah.
And like I said, the event like this kind of forces you into that situation, but I think there's even something to be said for just like on your own, kind of making sure to try things out rather than just reading them through and assuming you know how it's going to actually perform.
Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose brings us back around to the idea of these warbands that we've been tooling around with, that are just not necessarily what other people are thinking about, or maybe things that have already been written off. We very recently were just discussing your use of Dakunin crew to take down Nova, which I personally have to admit, I would not have assumed that they were even really capable. I didn't know that they were all that good, which is, I think, a cool little learning moment for me. That like, wait, this warband's actually pretty good.
I'm in the same boat.
As I may have made clear in the last episode, I was also in that boat. So
yeah, like right. So I mean, a bunch of us saying, "Hey, probably not that good," and then it's like, oh, actually, play against these guys, and a lot of these tools feel better than they look.
Well, let's talk about that. Is that what drew you to Hexbane's Hunters? What got you interested in trying these guys out?
Yeah, so we were just coming off of playing at Adepticon. I brought Kagra's Ravagers at Adepticon this past year. I was trying to do Hold because Hold has been throughout the history of the game my favorite play style, but Hold is, I feel like, kind of a different animal in second edition than it was in first. And I think a lot of the things that I sort of took to be good or assumed are best practices for playing Hold didn't necessarily work out that well going into second edition. Not to say that I like had really terrible luck doing Kagras, but they did not perform for me at Adepticon. And I was just feeling a little frustrated with trying to do the Emberstone plan that, at least that way, of sort of the traditional, just like get on your points and try not to move. And so I was trying to think about, what is the other part of the game that I have always really enjoyed, and that was having like lots of little tricks, which Starblood Stalkers always did in their faction deck in season 1, but Starbloods weren't around, although we now know they're coming back. So that is going to be pretty cool to see what they can do in this new world with a War Scroll and all of the stuff that they might end up being able to do. But so I was trying to look through other warbands that exist and think who has like these maybe push tricks or teleports or like other weird stuff that sort of lets you play the game from like a different angle than other warbands. And I suppose I was really just kind of looking for something that shook things up for me.
Sure.
And I realized that Hexbane's dogs give you a lot of that ability to like zig while people are zagging, because it's like, well, I'm moving 2 fighters when you're moving 1. What does that do for the game?
Yeah.
And now, especially now that the dogs are allowed to hold tokens. So that was sort of the like, okay, I can do something with this, but let's see how it works, because everyone's kind of assumed and said, perhaps rightly so, like the stats are just bad. Don't play Hexbanes. They're bad. It's really hard to make them do anything. They're just going to get outstatted for the most part.
So when you're, you happen upon them on movement tricks, did did any other warbands like catch your attention, like, movement tricks with Kanan or some such?
Yeah. To be honest, the first one was Gits. and then I went, no, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be playing Gits because everyone's already like kind of hating on Gits because of how strong they are. And in a lot of ways, like playing the boogeyman is not always very fun for me. Especially because it can just feel bad, right?
Yeah, in particular because, especially for, you and I, now we exist in a local meta where we can show up and get our heads kicked in easily,
Yeah.
But for quite a long time, like you and I had far and away the most play experience. And so it was like, we really shouldn't come and bring like the absolute turbo mode. And I think some of that still is ingrained a little bit, like I'll take some, I will at times definitely bring like the super heat and try it out. But I kind of love League for that as like, hey, this is a great environment to try different stuff out. And other people are doing it. Like, obviously we've talked about it, Alex is going to do, Alex things, which mostly means Kagra, right? Wellner is going to go super mad scientist on whatever his passion of the moment is. So it's it is a community that does a fair amount of experimentation here, and that is kind of fun to check out. So it feels like in the spirit of things for our local. And I say all this just because when we talk about like feeling bad, being the boogeyman or bringing the big thing, like we're not saying that people should feel bad bringing that stuff to a tournament, right? Like
no.
You should feel free to bring.
Certainly not in a tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Like bring what you want, and if it's really that scary, then people better know how to deal with it, and that's also part of the puzzle to solve with this game. So just want to be clear with where we're going with that.
But, absolutely.
I think time and again we see in the meta like people just want to play fun things, and it's I think a great point to our community and to the Underworlds community writ large, that also means that you want your opponent to have fun. And Gits, while I love their mechanics, I love the scurry and love being able to pull off fun movement and shenanigans with them, I want my opponent to have fun too. And bringing them time and time again isn't fun because they are overtuned and they are very insurmountable in just how quickly they can score. And especially if other people at the game store are trying out new things, it doesn't give them a whole lot of room to breathe.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think there is there's sort of a boredom maybe that can set in if so like metas that get skewed, right? Where it's like, there's one thing that seems especially good. So if you go to a tournament, you'd better expect to see it. If you end up having a day where it's like, well, I had to play against 3 Gits players, sometimes it's just not very fun by the time you're playing Gits for the 3rd time in a row, right?
Look at all the folks who had complaints coming out of Worlds last year. Like, I played 3 Drom on Assault Reckless Fury in a row. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't ever really want that. And so I think in some ways, because Gits really haven't gotten fixed, I think there's maybe a shift, and maybe this is just in our region, but people are not necessarily always bringing Gits anymore. And I think it's maybe just out of like, I want to experience something else.
Right.
Like, we can admit that maybe Gits are still perhaps the best thing to be doing in the game, but it's just not super fun anymore. And it's like, I don't care about winning that much that I'm just going to forgo having fun playing a game. So in that way, I think, finding something else can be really rewarding, and then maybe really digging deep and finding something that is just a surprise to other people can have, at least for me, some of its own reward of being like, hey, I bet you've never seen this before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we definitely had that experience when Bobby, Alex, and I went up to CTC in Canada in Ottawa, and Ruben came all the way across from Australia and hit us with edge of the knife thorns, and
Nice.
I feel bad because like one of the nights when we went out and we're having a beer and we were all like, hey, how cool is it that all the decks are like all the warbands are unique and all the decks are represented, and they're all like, yeah, that's great. And I was like, good on Ruben for bringing Edge of the Knife, and he's like, no, it's good. And I was like, okay, I hope to challenge, I hope to play you against you with it. Little did I know that I'd get trounced by them on the top table, but those were really good games, and it was like the uniqueness of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it had just been another Gets match, then I'd be like, oh yeah, good on you. You know, you outplayed me, played the deck. You know,
Sure.
But doing it in a more spectacular fashion is so much more rewarding, and it was something that, as in the car ride home, we were like, that is peak.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, Phil, with the Hexbanes, why don't if we're going to touch on them, why don't you give us a quick rundown of the fighters and war scroll here?
Yeah, so just real quick for folks, the warband is admittedly a bit light on stats, I'll say, but they've got some cool tools. So first off, just so that folks know, the way they inspire, it's a little awkward in that you have to have a friendly agent Azerite, which is one of your human folks, die. But when they do, you get to then pick one of your other surviving ones and inspire them. And if Pock dies, the dogs inspire, similar to how they worked in first edition.
So Pock dying means both dogs and another hunter will inspire.
Absolutely. We will certainly come back to that idea. They're sort of, besides the dogs thing, I would say there's other really unique and powerful abilities called tools of the trade. You get to use the bounty characteristic of slain friendly agents Azerite to determine glory points that you can use for upgrades. So even if you haven't really gotten your scoring going, you still might be able to start putting out upgrades if you've lost fighters. This is to preserve some of the same mechanic from season 1, but I think now that we have variable cost upgrades and refunded glory for upgrades, this actually ends up meaning that you don't even need very much glory to suddenly be able to have a lot of upgrades out. And then if you lose another fighter, you now have like all that glory plus whatever the fighter's bounty was. So you really start to get some really high like upgrade pool glory. And so you can run more upgrades that cost more, if that makes sense. Right. The ability then that I, honest to God, I don't know why I screw this up so bad all the time, but so they have Marked for Vengeance, which kind of goes along with their Inspire. So after an agent Azerite is slain, the fighter who did so is now marked. You don't have a choice about that, which is a little frustrating, but so it has to happen. They become marked. Any other enemy fighters that were marked are no longer marked. And then you get a free reroll in any attack roll that targets the marked fighter. But the part I always forget about is if you slay the marked fighter, you can either remove all move and charge tokens from a friendly fighter or draw a power card, which are both things that, I mean, drawing more power cards, everybody can kind of do now. There's a lot more power card draw, I feel like, in this edition. But getting to remove all your move and charge counters is quite the surprise.
But I mean, passively drawing power cards, like, yeah, we can all focus, but passive, you know, it's like one of the things that factors into Headsman. God, there's another passive draw card warband that's totally blanking on me, but
Kagras has it. There's also a lot of card draw that comes out of the Iltharis. Because they plant seeds
Zandara,
and stuff.
That's the one I was.
And Zandara is definitely
crazy. They're the cracked card draw ones.
What did Skylar do with that deck once? 28 power cards. I think he drew most of them too.
Since we're mentioning Kagras, that game against Alex, he managed to get 4 desecrations out, and we were really battling over position So he's like, I need some more cards to kind of ensure my spot. So he drew 4 cards in the first round, drew into, I think, by the numbers for
Yep.
number stone, drew another 3. So he drew like 7 extra power cards in the first round. I was like, oh boy, this is a lot to overcome.
Seems good.
Yeah. I definitely did that quite a few times. It felt good anytime you got to do it, but sometimes it then was like, I've blown all this stuff.
Yeah.
I've put everything into round 1, and now I have to like hold on and pray that I'm going to make it through the rest of the game. And sometimes it just, you ran out of gas, and it was unfortunate, but it did always feel good to be sitting there with your big old grip of 10 power cards.
Yeah.
Like an Uno draw 50, you got.
Yeah. Why not?
So you mentioned like this is the ability that you forget a lot, and I know at our Q2, I think you forgot it in our entire match probably.
Yep, sure did.
It definitely could have been consequential because we had some like razor thin games there. Is it something that you're still forgetting, or is it something that you're kind of on top of now?
Unfortunately, I still forget about it. I really shouldn't. I think the reason is because it's like this really long paragraph of rules.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like you get down to this last part, and it comes up infrequently enough, and because it's like a trigger that you have to remember to do it when you kill a specific fighter, that I just get past it, and then I'm like, start of the next activation, I'm like, oh crap, I should have done that. So I don't know, I need to like set some sort of marker or something on the card to be like, remember to do this, or maybe put a token next to the fighter. Right, that might work better.
I think that'd be a big, and when they die, that token's getting picked up, and then you're like,
yep. So that, anyway, my mental errors aside.
Well, I mean, this is another thing that, whenever you're doing a project like this, you're going to run into this sort of thing. And what I found, especially when I'm doing this, is like I would be playing a warband that my opponent was unfamiliar with, and I was only passingly familiar with. And I'm like, well, let me read this ability. And every so often I'd read it and be like, oh, actually, it works not quite how I thought. So
yeah.
I have really messed myself up. But you just have to accept that it's going to happen a few times.
Absolutely.
But taking the time to just read it out loud to your opponent is sometimes a great way to learn it yourself.
Yes.
But then, and like you were saying, using a counter or some sort of mechanism to remind yourself. And, some might say that having more tokens, reminders, remind your opponent as much as you. And so they might consider that at some point, giving information to your opponent. It's like, but like, I want to use my whole war scroll to the max of my ability. If I'm giving them more information, but I'm going to miss out on my own abilities,
100%.
Screw that. But so like, for Skylar, the whole Yilthari paragraph, right, on how to grow things. He's got tons of built-in muscle memory on this is my process and putting cards in specific places. So it's like, okay, before I get to draw that, he puts his growth tokens on that card so that way when the power step passes, he picks up that card. The tokens, are now there, and so then he reminds himself to plant or those growth tokens on the planted cards, kind of thing. So it's like you can find ways to like impede yourself so that you don't forget a step, and then stuff like that. For me, with the gardeners, doing the cycle, making sure that I'm tracking the spaces, I added a marker on the cycle so that I had where I am and where I will be after the power step. So that way, if we're just like excited and going past, all right, my activation, I can see where I was and where I was going, so that way we can kind of work through it. And there's a lot less arguing that way. Because if you just have the one, there's no history backtracking it. So definitely recommend doing that, like having a marker for your Hexbanes kind of stuff, because it really helps.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, all kinds of mental aids that maybe on the pickup games at the local shop aren't as important, but when you're playing your 12th game of the day and you're on hour 8 and your brain is fried, maybe is a lot more important to have some sort of a reminder.
Sure.
Right, but doing it during those league practice games helps the muscle memory, helps it become part of the flow of like, this is my power step. Like your power step becomes that's included in it, and it's like, yeah,
100%.
What else we got on that war scroll?
Yeah, so the next thing is Tight Knit Pack. This is, I guess, another sort of unique thing about the warband is you have 2 fighters with a 0 bounty, which again is a carryover from first edition. But this is to say you don't get any glory from killing the dogs until you've killed the first one. So you have to kill one to get bounty from the second one. Funny situation that came up in a game I was playing recently against other Brian in our local league. I was playing against Morgox, and I was down in round 1. I was down to Haskell and 2 dogs, and I was like, well, this is probably not going to go well. But I always make sure to run weapons for a handful of reasons for this warband, but especially because it gives some tools for the dogs to use. And so I ended up with weapons on both dogs, and Haskell ended up going down in round 3. And so I was going up against Morgok, who was really hurt, and I want to say it was Ardskull was the other one who was still left. But it doesn't really matter who it was. But it's two orcs left, and I was like, well, I know I can like dodge one of these guys, but if I'm gonna win, I need more bounty. So I just had to like kite using dogs to like just keep running circles around him and like poking him with the what's the spear from Pillage and Plunder called, where you get the range 2 attacks.
Burrowing Strike.
Is it
Burrowing Strike? Yeah. So I had Burrowing Strike there, so I was able to like pick shots at him and keep him pushed away and like just make it so that he couldn't catch me because he's only speed 3, and then took him down and ended up just barely squeaking the game out with just 2 dogs against Crushes, and that felt pretty amazing to be able to actually have that happen. So, but
literal underdogs.
I guess to make sure I get to the point of telling the story. So because I still had both dogs with weapons equipped, and he was playing a pretty aggressive deck, it was like he could come in and kill a dog, but he wasn't going to get anything from doing it unless he scored like a surge or something. And so it got to a certain point where it was like, well, now I have 1 fighter left and 2 dogs alive. And even if I can chase one of these dogs down and kill it, I don't actually gain anything from doing so. And once he charged, then there was no way for him to get the other one chased down. So you can kind of use that to your advantage and like force people into awkward spots where they're having to burn actions, but they're not going to gain any glory from doing it. Not too many other warbands that can say that.
Yeah. No. I mean, most often encounter it with raised warbands that are bringing people back, right?
Yeah, where you've already got the glory, but now they're back in your face.
I do remember the weapon twist where I think we were playing a game where I had Dread Pageant. I had a fairly decent lead, and I had one. I think I had actually maybe Vasilak himself was down to vulnerable, but I killed all your guys who could do more than 1 damage, and then I put unstoppable. So I couldn't pick, and I was like,
felt real bad.
All right, cruise control. I don't have to worry about anything. And then you were like, let's see, Burrowing Strike and and Glory Seeker is like,
yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you in 2 actions killed both Vasilak and Slake Slash, and I was like, well, that's 5 bounty. I just gave up. This game just really tightened up in a major way.
Little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dogs, having to sort of keep that in mind of like, how do you balance when to put them in harm's way, and as an opponent, like when do you choose to actually go after the dogs, because it can slow you down, but they are a valuable asset on the warband.
Yeah.
So then to the other dog ability is the Loyal Hounds. I think everybody's aware of this one. This is sort of the thing that gets Hexbane some props, is that you can move the dogs anytime that you complete a move with an Agent Azurite. So if you like move or charge, you get to bring a dog along. and the dogs don't have to end up like adjacent or anything to the target. So you can send them off to hold a treasure token. You can send them off to go delve somewhere. You can. I was playing against Skylar this past week at our league, and he was playing Rack, and he was just like, "Oh well, you can probably just block all of my Rack scoring because you can just always shoot a dog off to either stand adjacent or stand on an edge hex, and it doesn't really cost you anything." And it's like, you're absolutely correct. I can do that. There were some other problems for him in that game. He was operating on very little sleep, and at one point was like trying to deny my Rack scoring, but I wasn't playing Rack and Ruin. So I don't quite know what happened in his brain there, but at some point I was like, I'm not playing Rack and Ruin, right? And he's like, oh my God.
I've been guilty of that. Like, okay, I have to stop Strip, and then realize like I'm not playing against Pillage.
Well, that one you'd be a little more forgiven for how often you see it, but sure. Yeah, he like had a fighter go wander off to stand in an edge hex, and I was like, under what circumstance is that the right play? And I was like, oh, well, if I'm playing Rack, it makes sense. But
yeah, which can also be a benefit for playing something off the meta, is that they'll be like, oh, that warband would not even dream of taking not Rack, and then
get just the expected pairing, and you're like, well, of course you're doing that, and it's like, nope. Definitely not.
No, but I'm gonna let you think it.
Yeah. So I guess important to point out for folks who are not as tuned into the erratas and stuff, this ability did get changed. So it used to be that you could only move the dogs if they had no charge or move tokens. It now is just that they cannot do the free move if they have a charge token. So
that's a huge buff.
Huge change, huge buff, really, really strong. And it also gives them one more thing that's like completely different than most warbands, where you can end up with a single fighter who moves multiple times in the same round without it really costing you much. So come back to that, isn't a thing to talk about. But final ability, they actually have a lot of abilities.
They have so many abilities.
This one's a little awkward in just the timing of it, but this is called Ward of Martyr's Blood. You use this immediately after a friendly agent Azerite is picked to be the target of an attack. Now, the awkward part about that is most of the time people are like, oh, I'll move up a charge, I'll be attacking you, and they just like throw their dice immediately.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, like as you're seeing them throw the dice, you're like, I need to think about this for a second.
Yeah.
Because I have a reaction here. Because it's very rare to have the choice to interrupt someone's attack before they roll the dice. But what this does when you choose to use it is you can make it so your attacker is not allowed to use weapon abilities. So just flat out, they can't have anything. So no,
that's a once per game.
Once per game, absolutely.
Okay, that's crazy. So blade catcher,
once per game blade catcher. Yeah.
Yep. So they just any agent Azerite.
That's a restricted card, isn't it?
Well, it is restricted now. It was banned at one point.
Seems good.
It's pretty great. Certainly saved me more than a few times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is their only once per game ability, but it is a good one.
Yeah.
So the awkward part then, of course, is if somebody's already like thrown their dice, you try and look away and be like, okay, I know you said you're using cleave and you already threw your dice, but I definitely don't want that to happen.
Right.
Whereas like if they said they weren't going to use cleave, I might have not used it at all, but I didn't even get the chance to make the decision before they declared and threw dice. And then it's awkward because it's like, do I now make this choice with additional information? Because like trying to walk it back doesn't really work. So it's been awkward sometimes. I try to be better about like just being like, hold up, I need to think about this.
I would say in my TO opinion, I would say make sure you have a conversation with your opponent at the beginning of the game. Hey, I have this ability, but like when we get excited in the heat of the moment, you might just rush to jumping to it. In that case, I'm going to turn my head and try not to, try to make the decision without the dice information. But, unless you give pause, I'm going to, have more information than you would ought to have given me, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tricky timing. I don't really love that there's like cards that work in that window, but I think given the way that the reaction windows are these days, that there's just going to have to be more of that, and people are just going to have to get used to the idea that like I might have a card that needs to interrupt your attack, so please give me that moment to think. But yeah, good advice from a TO perspective. So that's the warband. I don't know if there's enough stuff there. But yeah, lots of tools.
They have a lot of great tools. Yeah.
Lots of things that let you do stuff that other warbands just can't do. And I've realized that there's more of that than I thought there even was when I started playing them, where it's just like, I can just do this and no other warband would even consider doing it because it's like almost impossible. Which has been a really fun sort of learning experiment to like keep getting even deeper on this warband and finding more and more things that you can kind of do with this war scroll.
Yeah, I've been impressed at the longevity, like how long it's kind of kept you occupied.
Yeah, like 6 months now of like almost exclusively. I've like broken out Jaws a couple times, and I think I played Emberwatch once, but otherwise it's been just Hexbanes.
So what are some of the pairings you've tried out over this time? What are some of the memorable ones, I would say?
So in terms of playing pairings, I have pretty much done, let's see, Rack and Edge of the Knife. I've done Rack and Pillage and Kata, which has been probably the best that I've been able to find for them, which is also like, hey, guess what? That's like the best for the vast majority of the game. So it
Sure.
always felt a little bad, but like when we were playing like Q2, I was like, I've just got to do this one because I think it's the best that there is.
I mean, right there, the extra moves, and especially with fighters that only give up one bounty between the two of them, you can get some fighters staggered there early and not have to surrender too much.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I realized pretty quickly that these guys work very well with Pillage for those reasons, but then also like you can end up kind of jumping in multiple directions at the same time, which can stretch your opponent a bit and like give them bad choices where it's like, oh, great. So you like charged with Amos onto this guy and he's like threatening this axe attack. But now I have this dog that's just off in the side of my field who's delving this token.
Sure.
Do I like go run after that dog away from the rest of your fighters, or do I like keep dealing with the agents? And
and it's also the pairing that currently has the two most meaningful weapons, I think, with
for sure,
Burrowing Strike and Desperate Rage.
Desperate Rage, which is
really change the face of it. Can solve one of the problems you have internally with your damage output.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I will just say, you start the game with one fighter who can do 2 damage without crits.
So rough.
One is real bad. The added survivability for this edition is just awful for these guys because you need like 3 or 4 attacks to kill fighters that other warbands can kill in 1 or 2 attacks. So that has been sort of the biggest problem, is just like you have to do everything through volume. And so having those options with things like weapons that can suddenly be like a big stat injection to just be like, oh, this fighter who does 1 damage is now hitting for 3, has been immensely important. And can also be a surprise because all of a sudden it's like, oh, that dog who's on 2 swords and 1 damage is suddenly 2 hammers for 3 damage. Like, it's a problem. And it's not that other warbands can't do that, but I don't know. I think sometimes we don't give weapons enough credit. I think if you think about them from like hey, how much of a stat bonus is this attack versus my baseline attack?
Mm-hmm.
If it's even +1 dice, it's already as good as Keen Eye.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And everybody's always like, well, yeah, of course you'd want Keen Eye. That's amazing. So, I think,
And if it comes with anything else, it's just amazing.
yeah, right. So I think, I don't know that I'm telling a lot of people anything with that statement, but I think sometimes we can overlook weapons and sort of not necessarily think about them in that sense of like stat boosts versus just like, oh, well, you get additional weapon attack option.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely like them. They definitely work well for this warband. And sometimes very necessary. I think like base, this has to be the warband with the lowest damage output. I can't even imagine that there's another warband that's lower. So bit of a problem. Thankfully, Haskell and Bridget both inspired a flat 2. So like you can get there, but you had to lose a fighter to do that. So feels a little bad, but makes for some fun puzzles.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing I'll say about that is that the more I've been playing them, the more I've been realizing that their accuracy is amazing. Because you have the option to have dogs to give support for like all your attacks if you really want it.
Sure.
And they have
whenever you want it, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's sort of like having hidden aid on all your fighters in a way. And then they do actually have quite a few fighters who have lots of dice in their attack rolls. And you combine that with flanked, and suddenly your attacks are very likely to go through. So accuracy is not the problem. And sometimes just like continuing to focus fire on like the target that you have to take out, when you're that accurate, it's like, well, if I can guarantee that I'm hitting, or almost guarantee that I'm hitting in the next 3 attacks, I can probably just kill this fighter. Even though they're big and hard to take out with these low damage attacks.
Right. Yeah. You stack damage that way, but the accuracy where other people are looking for that one big haymaker to land. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah.
And I guess that's another thing between, the Cataclysm pings and trapped cache can help you kind of get a jump on that. But
for sure.
How have you found, you mentioned Rack, you mentioned Edge, how have you found those to be contributing? Did I hear you did like a Edge and Reckless or something crazy? No.
So that was the most recent deck. This was a big experiment, and I actually feel like it worked out way better than I expected. So This is sort of the thing that made me think this would be a worthwhile thing to talk about, of just like play stuff that you just don't even think makes any sense if you've never tried it. Because like you don't know. You just don't know. There's like so much stuff in this game where it's like, that shouldn't work. And then it does. And I often feel like I see an opponent doing it and I'm like, why is this working? Why are you able to do this? It doesn't make any sense. So I tried it myself. And this was a real weird one for me. It took me way out of my comfort zone to use Reckless Fury and Edge of the Knife with these guys, which sounds probably terrible on paper, right? Because it's like, what are you doing? You got this deck that cares about having everyone charged, and you've got 2 dogs that you never want to have charged, and like just all this weird anti-synergy. But the cool thing with this pairing is that you have a lot of surges that are uniquely good for this warband pairing. And so like, best foot forward is just really good. Just basically make a charge into enemy territory and hit. But the nice thing about best foot forward in my mind is that it doesn't care if it's a melee or ranged attack. And so the positional requirement is a lot easier when you have so many ranged fighters to be able to pull it off with. And since it does require a successful attack, having those extra supports suddenly makes that card work really well for you. Frenzied Rush is kind of a tough one, but it's just like you have to have fighters with charge tokens in enemy territory kind of just happens. So I felt like decent enough, but that's probably like the worst surge in the deck, which if that's your worst surge, you're probably doing all right. Savage Sprinter, which I don't know if anyone's ever actually played this card before, and I certainly had never played it or played against it. But you score it immediately after a action step if a friendly fighter in enemy territory has 2 or more move tokens. So that's kind of coming back to that errata. As soon as they took that valve off of like, hey, you can only do the move if you don't already have the move tokens. It's like, well, all of this is basically free. Like I just take 2 actions and my dog has this.
Right.
And it's like, what other warband is going to even consider doing this? I mean, maybe you pick it up with like Sepulchral Guard, but I don't think Sepulchral Guard would love Reckless all that much. So sort of a weird one. Aggressive Defender, don't need to say much about that one. It's just really easy. Behind enemy lines.
You have,
yeah. Behind enemy lines. It's a fun one where we already talked about how you can like shoot a dog off to go do random stuff just away from the action and split your opponent's attention. And this is just hold a feature with a tempered fighter in enemy territory. And it's like, well, the dogs are tempered and you can send them off to do that somewhere away from the action. And your opponent really has to think like, do I care to go deny behind enemy lines and attack a dog that's not worth any bounty? Or do I keep dealing with the guys who are shooting me? Double Team is another one that's super nice because it's just make a successful attack where the target is flanked. So
you're gonna have plenty of opportunities for that.
It's almost free. So like that was the sort of catalyst of like, well, hold up. This surge package is amazing specifically for this warband. I don't know that combination of surges works for any other warband, but I can kind of make it work here. And then the rest was just trying to fill in the other pieces and playing off of what the warband already does really well or uniquely. So like one that I really like having in here that's a little different is being able to take advantage of synchronized effort, which for folks who don't know is you choose 2 tempered friendly fighters within 4 hexes of each other and you swap their places. But being able to use the dogs to set that up is something that most warbands can't do. And it gives you a lot of potential for where you can end up using this teleport. So
and I've found because I'm a big fan of teleports, big fan of positioning boys, right?
So good.
But in other warbands where I've tried to use it, sometimes I think it was really great in like Grimwatch. I was able to send Gristlewell around to places that he shouldn't get to, but in some other ones I would find myself with like, well, I can swap one chain rasp for another chain rasp, and like there's not really that big a difference here. But you still, but here you have your tempered fighters are like so dramatically different. Some of them that it can be like a pretty big deal, and the dogs are just making sure that wherever you want to teleport somebody, you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's just about having options, right? So, start seeing these like plays where it's like, I don't think anybody else can do this. And that just like gets my brain going. And then I want to keep going down that avenue. And it actually worked very well. So, I don't want to necessarily go through every card in the deck or anything like that.
Sure.
I can post up we can have them in the show notes, but I was playing against, like I said, I was playing Skylar's Cunning Crew. He was doing rack with Cataclysm, I want to say. I think he wanted to try the whole, like all the pings thing. And I think he very quickly got a little surprised by some of the stuff that I was pulling out and was like not expecting it. And I think that sort of goes to show like playing this sort of off ball weird stuff even if you're just doing it for fun, it can actually give you an advantage in that your opponent might have no idea what you're doing,
Sure.
and then they don't know how to counter stuff either.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean you're going to win. I certainly go into every single game I play with Hexbanes assuming that I'm not going to win, because they do have a number of things working against them. Their health pool is incredibly small. They have 15 total hit points, but 4 of that is in the dogs. So, there's not a whole lot there in terms of beef. Like you can lose all your fighters in a hurry. But it's been real fun just like messing around, finding new little tricks, and then showing up and having people just get their head turned sideways trying to figure out what to do about this stuff.
It's always fun when it's like, wait, these guys weren't a threat. Why are they threatening?
Yeah. To that end, I mean, like, I would say I really skew these decks to be minimum 17 or 18 glory because I know I'm going to lose most of my fighters. And so most games I'm scoring around 20. I tend to lose a decent amount. I'd say I'd probably win about 50% of the time, which is not amazing, but I think people are surprised at how much they score. It's like, well, wait a minute, why do you suddenly have all this glory? Like, where did this all come from? It's like, I don't know, dogs running around doing random crap.
With that win percentage, though, how often would you say you forget, like, with all your abilities, how many times or what percentage of the time do you think you forget or played a game without having used the omen or that marked ability for them?
Well, I remembered to actually draw power cards off of marked for the first time against Skylar. So if that tells you anything. But the other abilities,
so still leaving a lot on the table.
The other abilities I am very good with. I definitely use them. I don't think I've always made sure to use them at the right moments. Because I think sometimes it's hard to know, like, what's the right fighter to try and preserve. And I think that's hard for a lot of warbands, where it's like, in general, I probably care most about, like, so Hexbane, right, is probably the fighter I care about the most of the time. But, like, in the moment, what is the cascading effect if I allow this attack to go through on Amos? Like, is this successful attack going to be the difference between you scoring, like, 2 surges off of this attack? And it's that kind of stuff that I think I don't always see, because I'm, like, focused on my stuff so much.
Right.
So it's definitely one of those things. And I think the more things that you have to keep track of with a warband, the more often you're going to do that. So I think there's something to be said for, like, this warband also probably being a little hard to just keep all of your abilities in mind. And I think that can actually be true for a lot of warbands, where it's like, there's just a lot to think about here, and I might not remember it all, or I might use it at the wrong time. I don't know if you guys have any anecdotes of similar things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a high skill ceiling warband where, you know, there's a lot of abilities to work with, but the more of them that you remember, utilize the whole time, because nobody has ever played an entirely perfect game. So there's always stuff you miss, but, like, building up that repetition and getting yourself into a rhythm of making sure to eliminate more and more of those missed opportunities will all help bring you above that 50% win rate in time. And so it's like always eager to see that development in the way that, you know, somebody's able to manifest it, you build it up. I mean, I had plenty of games with the Gardeners where I was like, what is the deal here? Until I was able to remember all of the different things. And, you know, I don't even think that they're as complex or as many faceted as, or multifaceted as Hexbanes. But yeah, there's plenty of warbands that do have that, like, it's practice and repetition and just recognizing all of those different options. So it's I think, what was it? I think back to like when Emmett and Val's boy were talking, and how they get frustrated with their own mistakes, and how they're more I forget if it was Val's kid or if it was Emmett, but getting more upset at leaving something. There was something that they could have done, and yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I'm kind of running off on a tangent.
I know what you mean. Like,
yeah,
there's everyone is motivated by different things, and I know, for Emmett, it's if he makes an error, it's less about losing and more about like, I didn't stop Strip the Realm, and I absolutely could have, and like, then he can really kind of beat himself up and that sort of thing. But I think one of the things we're kind of dancing around here, one of the things that I have found with this sort of experimentation, with this trying out different things, is that when you're playing different warbands, it kind of forces you to kind of think about the game in some different ways. So, for example, with Gardeners, like when you get to the end of your power step, that's your turnover. That's when your cycle is going to advance, other than being damaged. So it starts reinforcing that, hey, there's these kind of windows, and you start to have more of a universal checklist. Like, all right, I just completed an action. Anything that needs to happen after this action step? No. Okay. Now both peoples have passed. Is there anything that needs to happen after this power step? And it helps you, but it can also help your opponent, where maybe like, hey, it's the end of the power step. You got anything? Like sometimes I'll be playing somebody that I know has something like that, and I've found by running warbands that I haven't run as much, it helps me like think about the game in a more universal way, and as well as like just different angles, different perspectives on it. It gives you a more kind of holistic understanding, holistic view of the game.
Yeah, and I think something I've been thinking about recently, with knowing there's a bunch of new stuff coming, and then also having tried a couple new things myself. Like I said, I dabbled with Jaws not that long ago, and for the first time, and basically since they came out. Mm-hmm. And playing warbands that you're not familiar with really forces you to make sure that you're actually getting everything right, which slows you down to like check all the interactions, check all the timing. Like, we get to a point where we're like, I'm confident that I know how everything works. I'm going to take all these shortcuts. And you had mentioned it earlier, Davey, where you're like, just reading it out loud sometimes surprise yourself of like, oops, that doesn't work the way I thought it did. Yeah. Because you made a few mental shortcuts that skipped over a few words.
Sure. A good example of that for me was Nova, where get into the final and playing Jimmy Molini. He's like, tell me what these guys do. I was like, yeah, let me run it down real quick. And I'm just skimming over the card, and I'm like, and there's this ability Knee Biter, which I have not used yet.
Whoops.
So let's definitely take advantage of that. And then it was, hugely pivotal in the final for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, lots to be learned there of like, just actually like making sure to slow down just enough to remember that like there's all these things going on, and we need to like, they might be more consequential than your brain's shortcuts can let you think. And especially in big moments in like bigger games where it's like big tournament or something, you're at finals, or it's just like somebody that you've had games back and forth and you keep losing, and you're like, I really want to get him this time. Yeah. I think sometimes just that one extra moment of being able to think through can be really valuable. So I think maybe intentionally get out of your comfort zone just to like recalibrate your ability with the game, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think as all this new stuff comes out, there's probably going to be a standout. Like the last time we got the big boxes of Grand Alliances, there were some obvious grabs, but we've seen other things creep up through those boxes that have been slept on for so long. So there's going to be slept on stuff in these boxes too. So I'll be really keen to see, there's going to be obvious call outs when I think these boxes drop. And I'm looking forward to finding those. I'm also looking forward to finding the sleepers that somebody's going to have a combination that I didn't see, and there's going to be, you know, thorns and edge, and I'm just going to be like, well, okay, what do you got here?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, that's a really good point, and like a really cool thing to think about as we start getting closer to Worlds again, is that like obviously no one had any time with any of the addition before Worlds, which was kind of unfortunate. But everybody was like, what's the quickest thing that I can like figure out that I know is going to be good? And it was like Drom. It's just good stats, good abilities, let's go. And like Gits were there. People could have played Gits exactly the way that people are playing them now. Pillage Kata is exactly available. It's just, it wasn't as obvious, right? And so to your point of like, there's these things that are there that could be maybe the best thing out there, and it's just really hard to know until you start experimenting. I mean, I guess thinking because Slippy was in our neck of the woods today, and it's like, I did not respect Mollog at all this edition until I played him with it, and I was like, hold up, wait a minute, that does what now? And then started seeing people who were taking down tournaments with Mollog, and it's like, wow, it took people so long to realize that like the squig stuff is crazy, and like Mollog's really still quite strong if you can like manage the action economy. And so like the depth, I think, of all these warbands is really there, and maybe just ends up being unexplored because we just kind of know that like, well, these are easy choices. And
I think another argument for exploring the depth, you talked about like, hey, it took a while for the strength of some of these to become apparent, but also if you kind of broaden your understanding, try out some different things, well, then when there are shifts in the meta, then you have a broader, you're like, oh, hey, this new deck that just dropped, or hey, everybody's like going a lot more like elite aggro. I played something a while back that actually felt pretty good into that, and it better prepares you to like shift to adapt to new changes because you've already been trying a bunch of different things out. You can, and I see it from some folks that play a ton. I'm thinking of like George over on Path to Glory here, like something. Will come out and he's like, oh yeah, like I think that actually might work really well with this warband. I was like, oh. It sounds like you played like 20 games of that warband. I've never even picked them up once, sort of thing. And it gives it kind of speeds up that cycle of how fast you can kind of react to the introduction of new elements.
100%. And being able to see things that other people might not be thinking about and be like, oh, that card was going to do some real nasty stuff with this warband, and people might not even like, they might just be a write-off thing because they're like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like it'll work with anybody. So yeah, very cool stuff.
Do you feel like there's any other lessons learned, tips, tricks, anything that either specifically or on the broader, more universal perspective that you'd want to share about that kind of experience?
I mean, I think the biggest one really is just like keep trying more stuff, and like even if you find something that feels like it's working, keep trying. Like if you had other cards that you were thinking about and you're like, I was thinking about this, didn't end up playing it, the way I built the deck, it worked really well, so I'm just going to stick with it. Like it's probably worth just swapping that other card in just because, like, just try everything before you really settle, because honestly, the only reason you have to settle on anything is because of a tournament, and like, you'll know when you need to like lock in, right? Right. You get to a point, but
I definitely agree, because like there's all like the narrows, or the margins are so narrow with basically the objectives being capped at 16 glory for the decks, and then having only 7 bounty for the warbands. Like the glory margins are so narrow, so it's these micro decisions, whether it's certain cards over another. Like I was making so many different changes and iterations on card swaps with my gardeners through the whole year this year, and like it does change and fluctuate. So it's like I had cards that I had written off that suddenly were like such a pivotal card in the deck. So it's like there's going to be changes and iterations even as the meta grows, and so there's plenty of cards that don't make the first cut that come back in to rotation. So yeah, trying out stuff that previously you didn't think that you'd need.
Yeah, and if all else, you try this other stuff and you end up coming back to the deck pairing you're using before, the warband you're using before, well, you come back to that with like a reinforced reason of like, this is why this works. These are the strengths, and this is often I'll be like, oh, this is what I can do that is really hard for other people to do, or really hard for other people to counteract. So like, let me just bear in mind, I was overlooking just how strong or how challenging it was for somebody else to deal with, and it kind of can reinforce some of your understanding of some of the stuff that you're maybe taking for granted originally.
Absolutely. And I think just as another thought is like, well, you're working through this process of like, I'm trying this new thing, trying something really different. I'm experimenting. This is like off meta, different, stuff that probably other people aren't seeing very much. I think like keep in mind the reactions you're getting from your opponent during the game, and then probably even just have a frank conversation at the end of being like, hey, was there anything here that like really stood out to you as being like really impressive, or really was like a surprise or hard to deal with? Because, other people seeing like playing into it might even get a better understanding of like what were the things that were going well versus the things that were like still pretty weak for you. And then they can
they might just volunteer it.
They might.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's like, do you really, does that really work? Like, I think if there's ever a moment where they like pick up the card and want to read it themselves, that's probably a good moment to realize that like, you should probably do that again. People are incredulous at your ability to do something. It's pretty cool, fun moments to be had when you can do stuff like that. I think the first time that I was playing against your Dread Pageant, Davey, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna ping your snakes with jaws and they're just dead, and it's like, wait a minute, what why what do you just get to do this for? So real cool stuff to just be able to show off some tricks and like really catch people off guard.
Yeah. Well, gents, I'm going to send it once more around. Anybody got any last thoughts to share here before we wrap up?
I think just like, please, everybody who's listening to this, if you're like, hey, I've been doing this really crazy cool thing and it's been working for me, or even if it hasn't, but you've been having fun with it, please share. It would be really cool to hear about all this stuff that people are doing. I know sometimes in this process that I've been working on this, I keep thinking to myself, like, I know I'm having a lot of fun with this, but it's still Hexbanes. They're not good. No one's going to care because it's never going to like win a tournament or anything. But that's like selling it so short, because I've seen enough reactions now of people being like, wow, I never would have expected that I was going to, have such a tough time facing against Hexbanes, or, oh, they can do this cool thing. So just like freely share your joy that you're experiencing with the game, and like share the things that you think are cool, even if you're like, it's probably not the best, but here's this cool thing that I'm doing, and it's actually had some success, because it will get, those seeds of ideas into other people's heads to be like, well, maybe I can try something like that too. And then we get a more broad field and understanding of the game. And that is always really cool, I think.
Yeah.
And we all mutually geek out.
Yeah. Makes for those great, post event, hangout meals or whatever, where people tell these crazy stories about, did you see what this guy did?
Or, when you win a tournament with a warband nobody was expecting, and suddenly you can be like, whoa, what? I never thought that warband was going to do that. That's so cool. and realize that like maybe there's a broader group of warbands that I need to be considering than what I have been.
Sure. Yeah. All right, gents. I think that was a fun freewheeling conversation. We're gonna wrap it here. You can get in on this conversation. A great place to do so is the Discord. We've had some folks coming by, including John Grant. I guess he's been a long time listener. He was a fellow we shouted out for the really cool custom board he did. Actually, and then Joe from Texas came up, and he had some pictures. Oh man, that's there's so much we could say about him. What like he's doing for his community, all this kind of amazing resources he's done. He puts so much into it. He was a delight to play against. You would, it's a great example. Like you would pull off something crazy and you're like, oh man, sorry, that was kind of a huge end phase score. He's like, no, I love it. I'm learning so much. This is amazing.
He did so many cool things where he even had like a class or course in terms of learning Underworlds and learning it step by step and building up to not making those many mistakes. And so he even had like a graduation ceremony where he dressed up as a sepulchral warden. It's so cool. So like we should reach out to him and get his community location, game store, whatever, and link them because he'd be a really great figurehead for the community, and he's got a community, so you can join on in.
So do like he did. Find us on the Discord and chat with us there. Or if you prefer email, there's whatthehexcast@gmail.com. There's all the Mortal Realms content from the network at themortalrealms.com. The flagship podcast, the one that bears our network's name, that is about to drop its 100th episode.
Yeah, buddy.
So long time coming on that. We want to say thanks to our patrons. We kind of have a communal situation here where they contribute to the network as a whole, but we're part of that. They're what helped us afford some of the equipment we use to stream. We'll be talking more about that in the next episode, I think. Some stuff coming up for 2025. And speaking of coming up on this, we're going to figure out what we're going to cover. It could be maybe a look ahead at what we think is happening for Worlds. At some point, all this new stuff from Spitewood and those extra warbands are going to come down the line. That's going to give us a lot of work to do. So
please don't be while we're at Worlds. That would be kind of miserable. That would have never happened in the past. GW would never do anything like that.
I remember being like totally exhausted from streaming and being like, okay, now I'm going to go transfer some stuff to blogs here, now I'm going to this episode to drop. So yeah. Anyway.
Or even for everyone who's competing and wanted to actually buy their products and then realizing they sold out while everyone was playing. That was
but gents, before we get to our next episode, we still have to leave this one. We can't leave this one until we do our Flavitext quiz. Are you ready?
Yep.
Bring it on.
This is going to be a tough quote to relate. I'm going to be pretty impressed if somebody gets this. So I'm prepared to give some hints as we come. And even then, I wouldn't have gotten this. I can say that. This is a quote attributed to Kagra the Usurper. Is end this.
Oh man.
All right. Here's your clue. This is a plural. It is an objective worth 1 glory from Countdown to Cataclysm.
Is it a surge?
No.
It's not an alt art card.
No. Which curiously,
those do differ.
They do have different. I just realized that today. They have different flavor text. So if I really want to throw you guys for a loop, I know what I'm doing.
I think I can. I think I can see it.
This is. Oh man, this is the one for having killed a fighter in the round. It's an end phase for 1 glory. I can see the art. I can't remember the name. I've only seen it played 1 or 2 times.
Yeah. I was using it a fair amount because I was desperate for
Hounds of War.
Hounds of War. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Right on the nose. Right on the nose.
Shout out to our two best boys from Hexbane's Hunters. And a lovely pairing with that is a song by Kate Bush, the title track from her album Hounds of Love. Is your recommended listening for today. For What the Hex, I've been Davey.
I've been Phil.
And I've been Brian.
Cool.
Are we not saying that we're streaming at Worlds this year yet?
We can.
I don't know if we have.
I don't think we've announced it officially.
Oh man. Okay.